All right. So, this is the last episode. And just to give you guys a heads up, we have a lovely ambiance of thunderstorms for tonight. But that will not stop us from finishing, at least, or concluding the series of Fear of the Unknown. We have discussed topics from the fears of being a new player, the fears of venturing into new systems, and now the horrors of being a game master. And so, we invite you tonight in the conclusion of this talk series, this Monday Talks, as we now venture into discussing what it is that we fear when we run games. This talk is not meant to discourage anyone to try their hand in running games. We are here to discuss the noble tasks of making worlds, preparing one's mind for the lore and the story, dealing with imposter syndrome and making mistakes, and other relevant discussions to help start one's game mastering journey. Join in on the conversation. Face your fears. This last Monday talk will now be discussed and covered. Um, will now be covered by our lovely speakers for tonight. We have Jay and Lanz. You guys can turn on your videos now.
Hello.
Hello. Boo.
And of course, I feel completely under costumed next to Lance.
I walk around the house like this. This isn't the costume.
This is your standard pambahay.
Yeah, this is standard pambahay. Uh, so thank you so much, Denma, for having Jay and I. I was
Yes.
so excited to do this stream. I've been watching the past few streams, and the speakers are just amazing. Have you seen the past streams, Jay?
Yeah, I've been listening to them. They're very, very insightful. Good job from everyone involved. So it's actually very honored to be
Yeah.
pulled in for this one.
Yeah.
So let's introduce, of course, you lovely people to the stream, the speakers. Feel free to give, a small spiel. Who are you? How many years have you guys been game masters? What systems have you explored and created, especially for the game designers like Jay?
Okay.
Jay,
Yeah, why
you
don't
go
you
first,
start?
Jay.
Okay, I can. Sure. And again, age before beauty. No, I've been running RPG since 1997. I have played a lot of stuff, but on the horror angle, it's Call of Cthulhu, World of Darkness, Chronicles of Darkness. On the non-horror side, there's Legend of the Five Rings, Exalted, um, Age of Sigmar recently, a little bit of Warhammer Fantasy. I've yet to dabble into Warhammer 40k, and several other stuff. And I've tried my hand at building a couple of games. They're free. You could probably search my name in the web. You probably run into a few of them. Look for Badass, you'll run into a couple of the earlier work that I've had so far. I have a couple other things in the pipe, and I've also done work for Green Ronin Studios and for their Fantasy Age line, and also a little bit of work for Torg. That's it.
Oh. now who feels under prep for this one? After that intro, I should have gone first. I'm Lance, and I started out as a Dungeons and Dragons dungeon master, and then I sold my soul to Cthulhu, and now all I mainly run is Call of Cthulhu. For different systems, I also run Actong Cthulhu. And I've dabbled in Legend of the Five Rings. I've written a module for Dungeons and Dragons, but mostly I do art covers for several different modules, and one of them is actually here with us. Hello to Heroic Studios Gaming. Hey, Scott. I did the cover for one of his amazing adventures, so that's what I do, and I wear crowns at home.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. That was really good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that's it, I guess, for our intros.
Yeah, let's get a head start right into the topic. So we're talking about the fears as the GMs, and I think I'd start with our personal fears. What would you, Jay, consider as your strength and weakness as a game master and as a player, I guess?
My weakness. Ah, uh, I guess it's the fact that I tend to. I tend to worry about a lot about my players, and I tend to I guess overanalyze things. So at the end of every session, there's always this whole, rather than being able to like move on after a game. This so like I spend like a couple of hours mulling it over and like figuring out, okay, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. So there's a whole lot of like regrets and stuff, but that actually translates pretty well into notes on how to get better afterwards. So I guess it's one way to turn your anxieties into something productive.
Yeah, I think that's super relatable. No matter how long you've been running games, if it's decades or a couple of months, we're always worried about our players. We overanalyze things. I can see some of our audience reacting. You kind of hit the spot right there, Jay. Good job.
I think it's a thing that GMs share. After a while, it's like, oh, okay. We tend to be overcritical of ourselves.
But I do like how you turn those perceived weaknesses into strength, as you mentioned, taking notes and whatnot. Personally, I have a fear of I'm always terrified of not being prepared enough for players, especially when it comes to historical games like Call of Cthulhu or lore-heavy games like Legend of the Five Rings. It terrifies the crap out of me. I get analysis paralysis. I get several books on the subject, read it all, but then I think it's not enough. I have to prep more, and then I don't run a game. So that's what I do. Okay. Do you remember the first time you ran a game?
Yes, with much shame, but yes.
What was now? Do you want to share with us what the shame was, or what was the memorable thing about that game?
No, for that one, it was Legend of the Five Rings, first edition. Again, back in '97. So I was running a game for a couple of friends who were also fans of the setting. I did okay. I guess my biggest concern there was I was really heavily railroading everything. So I guess it's the whole writer's mindset versus GM mindset. First time you run a game, you have this perceived idea of like how the story should go. So in the end, you start shoehorning the player actions into that direction, and eventually you grow out of it. You grow out of it eventually, but during that time, it's like look back at it like, oh, very great.
Oh my gosh. I've done that. That has happened to me, and honestly, it takes so much for me to get over the thought that okay, I did it wrong. I can do better. I just have to run again. There's a temptation to, you know what? I'm good. I think I'm gonna stop running and just play.
There
But
we
we
go. We're
all gotta
seeing
get
some
over
comments
those
here about
fears.
railroading. There we go.
Exactly.
Railroad is my weakness.
We're all super worried that we might be pushing players too much, because a certain amount of pushing has to be done in tabletop role playing games. But when is it too much and when is it enough? My first time of running a game, I don't remember, because we had a game whenever the DM rolled a crit or the player rolled a quit, we gotta drink tequila. So, thankfully for me, I don't remember much about that first game. I hope my players don't remember much either. But okay, let's get serious for a moment. Why is GMing so scary for people? I talk to a lot of players, and they're like, "Oh, I want to run a game as well, but I'm too scared." Let's delve into that. Why is GMing scary for a lot of people? And if any of our audience want to respond to those questions, feel free. We'll read out your questions. Jay, though, you have to answer.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it really comes to the idea of being vulnerable. As GM for more traditional RPGs, you're the center of attention most of the time. Everyone's listening to you. Everybody is, or at least there's this this perception that everyone is banking on you for a good time, and you feel like you're carrying that sort of responsibility um, on you when you run a game. So, in a way, it's easy to fall into the trap that the failure of the game hinges so much on your shoulders that it's easy for you to like get spooked and essentially get cold feet and performance anxiety throughout the entire thing. But as there's a lot of ways to get around it. But that's definitely, I think, one of the reasons why a lot of players basically stop. Like, we love the hobby, we like to enjoy the hobby, but I don't want to be the one to help carry everything, especially since, like Hirox is just saying here, you have to perform. Your
Yeah.
energy carries the table, so
Yeah.
sometimes you have to be the one to be like, if you want your players to get in character, you have to be the first one to do it. If you want,
Yes.
you have to bring it up. You need to be the very very active. If it's a fight scene, you have to be the one to bring the energy, and that's a lot of things to ask sometimes, especially for people who are more used to just playing themselves. It's like, oh, I'm just a character and I reacted this scene when it's my turn. In the game, it's like you're not just waiting for your turn; you're literally running everything. So it can get a little, like, I guess, intimidating.
Yeah, and as our I can see all these responses on the chat. Like Stanley says, player reaction. Maybe the players don't like the NPCs I'm putting out, the NPCs I'm performing. Maybe they don't like the way I describe things, and there is that fear, as Jaden says, a fear of messing up because all eyes are on you. And as an experienced game master, Jay, what do you do to get over performance anxiety?
Do it. Honestly, it gets easier with practice, and in a way, if you run, it sounds a little sort of, but the more you run, the more practice you have in it, the easier it gets. You find the little things that make it easier for you. Sometimes for some GMs, it means running a module because it helps with the preparation. It helps with being able to know that I have something to fall back on. I don't have to like rely too much on improv. For other GMs, it's getting their feet wet first by running against people that they trust, people that they are comfortable being vulnerable with, essentially. So there's no expectation for you to just immediately jump in and run for complete strangers. It's really for friends first. That way you can try it out, see if what GMing is like, and then you build up from there.
Yeah. My pro tip is to imagine yourself as a player. You love your dungeon master. It's really hard to find a good game that you want to play. Let's say I'm craving for a samurai adventure. You would be my go-to, Jay, and I am grateful for that. So whenever I think of that, I try to be kinder to myself as a dungeon master. And I can see the Corgi Familiar DM is about to run a game. Be kind to yourself, okay? Be kind to yourself. Your players aren't gonna murder you if you don't run it well. This is not that kind of game. Oh,
There we go for
heroic.
cons. Yeah.
Yeah, heroic studios. Advice is run it a few times before actually running it, and that's another fear. I guess it's a different level of performance anxiety when you have to run for cons. People pay for the tickets. You want to know it's good, right? So but yeah, a lot of prep, kindness to yourself, and exercising, practicing. Oh my gosh, words, what are they tonight? Exercise, they're good for you too. But okay, what if you actually mess up in game? Do you have any stories of actually messing up big time in game? Because small mistakes are easy to gloss over. What about the bigger mistakes? Do you have any stories like that?
Yeah. One of the bigger mistakes that I had was uh, actually in the Age of Sigmar game that I ran for you guys.
Oh,
Yeah, remember the miscast table for your
I
spellcaster?
remember the purple sun. I remember the purple
Yes.
sun of
Yeah.
annihilation.
Shyish. Yes, that thing. So the thing with it is, I guess just background for our viewers. Um, Typical of Warhammer RPGs, the spellcasting is tricky, even in the Age of Sigmar. So if you basically screw up a spellcasting roll, something bad happens. Now the thing is, according to the rules, if you're starting spellcaster or you're casting a low to middle grade spell, the negative effects of the backlash would be like minor or at least an inconvenience. I misread that rule, so instead, um, instead what happens was I looked up the wrong chart and came up with like the worst possible result, which is this giant purple sun of annihilation would start absorbing everything like a black hole.
That was the first
So
game,
it, like,
right? I loved it.
it was the very first session. I'm like, I think I may have ended the game. So like, no, wait. Thankfully the players were very, very, very imaginative. They found a way to like pilot the thing into like Zinch's backyard to screw up the Chaos God of Magic. So yeah, it worked out, but it was a major move as far as like rules education was concerned, and just completely tanked the campaign in one session. Well, good one. If your players don't know you screwed up, you did screw up.
Yes, I like you nod sagely and said yes. That's exactly what happened. My biggest screw up was when I ran Actum Cthulhu. I ran it with a quick starter pack, so the rules weren't really concrete, and I really thought I had it down pat. But then we came across some situations that required like complex ruling, and I completely froze. I didn't know what to do, and after our game, my players came back to me and said, "You know what? You're the dungeon master. You have the final say on things. In the end, as long as it's a good story, we're happy about this." So it's one of the things that you could do. But I like Heroic Studios nod sagely, and I didn't screw up. What you talking about?
Sometimes confidence is what will carry the day.
Yeah. Speaking of confidence, imposter syndrome. I feel like
Oh yeah.
a lot of us deal with it in our daily lives and in gaming. Have you ever experienced this?
Imposter syndrome, I guess, rears its ugly head to me whenever we're talking about a setting where a lot of people know the setting better than you do. Because sometimes when you're the GM, you're the only GM that will run a certain game. Like, oh, I'm excited. Maybe I'll run Star Trek. and then suddenly your player table is like full of like 40 years of Trek.
Trekkies.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh no, it's like, hello, and then so it's that thing. So sometimes you tend to second guess yourself and your ability to run a game. So yeah, and I think this happened than most GMs would admit. But I think we all go through it.
I can
And
fully, yeah, I can
sorry
fully
about that.
agree. No worries. Especially, I run Call of Cthulhu all the time. Partially because I love Call of Cthulhu, and partially because I am in love with history. But I mean, I can only take in so much history, you know. And when I run games, I always freak out because I feel like I've never been to these places. Like when I ran Berlin, the Wicked City for Call of Cthulhu. I've never been to Berlin. I don't know what it's like. How can I bring this setting to life? And my players had been to Berlin, some of them at least. The most latest one was I ran a game set in Oklahoma. I've never been to the US. So I didn't know these things, daylight savings time and seasons and whatnot. I told them it was March, and here in the Philippines, March is summer. It's going to summer, and I
Yeah.
think there it's spring. I don't know. So I always when I want to put a weather element, I have to triple check if this is the season in this particular place, because I often fall back into our seasons, our two seasons, rainy
Right.
and not so rainy.
Yeah, because that's what we're used to, you know. And shout out, I guess, to Master of Nyarlathotep for literally giving you what the weather was like at the very start of the
Yes.
New York chapter. I was so happy for that
Yes.
one.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. And oh my gosh, so here's a funny story. Heroic Gaming Studios Gaming has Impostor Syndrome for his own system. Scott, if I'm not mistaken, it is Savage World. That's your system? Holler back if it is. Okay, but it just goes to show our audiences that Impostor Syndrome can hit anyone at any time, and only you can stop it.
Yes, by faking it till you make it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Maximum Apocalypse. There we go.
Yeah, those systems. Thank you so much, Scott. That said, Jay, you are my go-to when it comes to Legend of the Five Rings, but the lore is, I don't know where to
A
start.
lot.
It's like one of those Simpson seasons-esque
Right. Yes.
thing, and you don't know where to start. You don't know who's emperor at this moment. You don't know if the unicorns have punched through the Crab City or whatnot. How do you deal with this? And how can newbies jump into these things without having to spend half their lifetime reading the lore?
Okay, so for that one, given that there are a bunch of games that do have very heavy lore, I would recommend just picking a snapshot that you can work with, whether or not it's a small time period to work with, and start from there. Honestly, okay, let me reel that back a bit and start over. So, for large settings with lots of lore, sorry, what do you call this? So you start off with a slice of the setting, pick a tiny place, whether it's like a small province, one particular clan in Legend of the Five Rings, for example, and it's easy for you to start off with something that you can, with something you can chew. So, whether it's a small village, start with that. It doesn't have to be. I guess the temptation is for very large settings is to throw everything in, and I understand that because I also just started working with um, RuneQuest. So I've been reading up on RuneQuest, and RuneQuest is enormous. I am utterly stunned by the sheer amount of lore in that game. So we start small, we find a little bit of the setting, and then work from that and build upwards. Eventually, when you're ready, then you can start expanding. It's just a matter of finding what slice interests you the most and working from there. Oh, okay. Arj is here. Hello, Arj. Sorry.
I love that. Like, you pick what interests you the most and you start from there because um even if you want to run something but the situation doesn't really interest you, it's going to be very tough. I can personally vouch for that. What I started doing with Call of Cthulhu, because I started going into the pre-World War II era, and there was so much to learn. I started picking isolated events that the players wouldn't have to deal with the political atmosphere of that time. Just I'm gonna do a little plug in right here. I love Heroic Studios Gaming's uh, the haunting of Millibrand Manor because it is literally isolated. You are on an island and things happen. It's a great game to start with if you're just starting in Call of Cthulhu. Because while the haunting is classic, you can go out and go to the mayor and I don't know, have the house demolished. But on an island, you can't do it. So you can check out that game. But my suggestion is isolate something. The players in Call of Cthulhu, in Legend of the Five Rings. What I did for that one was I actually used the modules they came out with, the starter kits, and
Mm-hmm.
with the NPCs that they provided there, they actually I didn't need to read up on the other people. And oh, how do you keep the suspense? I'm sorry, I got distracted.
You saw horror, and then there we go.
I have the attention span of goldfish. You know what? We're gonna answer that right now. Jay, you go.
Wait, what? Okay, how do you keep the suspense in a horror game? Okay. When it comes to horror, what I like to do is I like to play on uncertainty. It's the easiest thing to do because by their natural state, your players are always in the dark. They're relying completely on you for information. So sometimes what I tend to do, like in Call of Cthulhu, is if sometimes I give contrasting details to one player. For example, oh, you entered the room. There's this green wallpaper that's really nice. Blah blah blah. And then to the other player, so the red wallpaper is that. Wait, you said it was green. Yes, I did. So now they have to figure out what's going on. And since you act as the eyes and ears of the players, it's a good way to keep people guessing. Of course, it's easy to go overboard with that. You just have to be very careful about not making it so that it's impossible to solve the mystery to begin with, but playing on the little things. Like you tell one player that, oh, you hear the radio, blah blah blah, and then if another player asks about it, said, oh, you don't hear anything. In fact, none of you
I love
guys hear
that.
anything except for that one guy. So stuff like those are the things that keep people from being too relaxed. It keeps them on their toes, and it's a subtle reminder that you're constantly in danger, so to speak, or nothing is as it seems. So that's how I like to keep the suspense in a horror game.
For me, my best practice thing is to take a cue from horror movies. Pretend you're the camera, watch how the camera portrays the story and portray your story that way. My favorite example here is Mars, our host's own Durian Hotel. So we were in a hotel, and I was playing an airhead because I love those. Who went swimming in the middle of the night, and so while I was swimming in the pool, she tells me that, okay, so as you reach the end of the pool, you see dirty feet. And that's exactly how the camera would show it. Dirty feet, scarred legs, torn clothes, and wide eyes staring at you. And with that slow anticipation, the players have seen horror movies. They know what's coming, and you're just slowly leading them into it, and they can't do anything but go into it. And that for me was horrifying when Mars did that to my character. I
That's excellent.
avoided pools for a while.
I gotta remember that one.
Yeah. And the horror cues in horror movies, like you hear rapping on the window and it's a branch but it looks like a hand. Use those small things to really bring the scenario to life, and it will always, it feels like a horror movie, and that's what usually players drive to when I run, at least. So that's my pro tip when it comes to horror games. Do you guys have more questions? Keep them coming. Jay's here all night.
Just tracking back a bit on some of the other questions earlier. There was something from Andre about your time in DMing, which was better, online or physical. They have pros and cons. Personally, I loved running physical because it's easier to read body language of your players. So you can tell if somebody's disengaging with the story or the plot. Also, it's easier for you to manage your environment. There was one time when I was running horror where I decided, just to spook players rather than play a sound that just, kick the table really, really hard in a particular moment. And that was probably not the best thing to do because one of the players just jumped off the table. But honestly, as much as I love running physical games, online has grown on me. Also because I have a kid, I don't normally have the time I used to go to places to run games anymore. So the convenience of online plus the tools available nowadays. I mean, I'm amazed by the virtual tabletops and what they've been able to do. It's definitely something. I haven't really tried too many of those, but I think here, this question about favorite websites or tools for online sessions. That's certainly something that I think be more of your thing, Lanz, because I think you've used those more than I have.
I'm 1,000 years old, to be honest.
Okay, so in that case,
what I use is Roll20. And but honestly, okay, just to counter your point, while I do prefer on real life gaming, online gaming lets you do stuff like this. I would look stupid in real life doing this with my salt lamp lighting. Oh my gosh, if you only knew how props are situated at this moment right now, it looks stupid in real life. So, while we can't run games in real life, use it to your advantage. Online gaming has, you can play music without them seeing you Google search in YouTube scary dark hoof sound or something like that. If you're more tech savvy, Astral Tabletop Gaming has gorgeous what do you call that, dynamic lighting, and so does Roll20. I just haven't figured out how to use those. So yeah, those are my favorite online tools. We have here
there's a question about favorite websites and tools.
Well, Roll20 is a classic that we all grew to love during the
Yeah.
pandemic, but I'm seeing more and more players run using those VTT. I don't know what that stands for. I told you I'm 1,000 years old. I'm so sorry.
Tabletopaudio.com.
Ah,
Definitely, definitely something to check out. It's free, free audio and free soundtracks for ambient music. I have run Call of Cthulhu, The Haunting, fueled completely with audio from tabletopaudio.com because it has a soundboard feature, so you can cue all the creepy sounds and everything. And it's perfect. This is really good, and I
wait.
always have it on whenever I'm running Call of Cthulhu.
Okay, quickly, just before we get to Paolo's really interesting question, let's go with Heroic Studios Gaming question first. What is your favorite die shape?
So die shape. D10 only because L5R and World of Darkness both use it.
I am I'm a huge fan of the D&D Caltrop, which is the D4.
The
You know,
D4.
yeah, the Caltrop. Okay, so getting back to isolating party options in L5R, make it clear that involving clan specific higher authorities will risk triggering civil. Oh, yeah. So once you're
Yes.
used to the politics of things in L5R, Eberron, Vampire the Masquerade, you can also start using those surroundings to isolate your players, which is a horrifying feeling. Especially, I was playing Vampire the Masquerade like a few months ago. We were baby vampires. There was no way you were gonna get help from some higher up out there, and that in its own thing is terrifying. So yeah.
Yeah, clan specific higher authorities. Yeah, running to your boss is not usually the best idea for L5R.
I wish I knew that. Oh, okay. So we've been getting a lot of comments about running in cons and whatnot. Um, how do you deal with the anxiety of not knowing what kind of players are going to be on your table, especially now that we're running online? We post our games online. We don't know who's going to accept those, who's going to take those seats. How do you deal with that anxiety? I personally have that anxiety.
Um, okay, for me, it's really just having a game plan. When you come to a table, you try to set your expectations early. Even if it is a convention game, start off with a briefing for your players. You know, welcome to my table. These are the things that you should that are okay and not okay on my table. Um, you know, do a quick check on the safety tools. What are things that I should be avoiding, especially for like horror games? It's like, oh, okay, so you don't do well with spiders. Okay, let's take that off the table. So yeah, and then after that, it helps to really have a solid module, which is why for cons, even if I'm very comfortable running improv games or games with minimal prep, I running modules, and why I'm super happy with Call of Cthulhu modules for cons because I always have something to fall back on. That way, I can focus on the other elements of running a game in a con, which is uh, the table management, managing players, managing personalities, making sure that I balance the way I share the spotlight. Because it's one of the things that you have to learn how to do as a GM is to make sure that all the players get to do something, and no one player. You know, sometimes it's the loudest player that dominates the table, and that's usually not fun for the rest. So there has to be a way to manage that and basically talk them through how to basically manage different personalities and hopefully try to get the more shy players out as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's always a challenge. My personal fear when it comes to playing for new players is sometimes I get it's not a bad thing, but it terrifies me as a game master. I get really smart players. I love them. I hate them as well, especially in investigative games. I tell them you hear a shot, and they're like, "Okay, what kind of gun is it?" I'm like, uh, I don't know. It's a shot. Was it a loud shot? Was it a short bang and whatnot? And what I did to overcome that is now I love them. I glom onto them whenever I find players who have specialities. Like when I ran Berlin for a couple of friends, one of them was a doctor. And in the first part of Berlin, no spoilers, there is a murder happening. So he was kind of like a coroner or something. So I was taking copious notes. Like, that's what the doctor would first look. And now my games feel more realistic when I run them, because I tell them, oh, you check the Y incision on their chest and whatnot. And I glommed on to one of my friends who is very much into weaponry. So and now I know what sort of weapons are used in particular situations. If you guys ever encounter players who know more than you, glom onto them. More often than not, they are willing to share their knowledge, and it'll just enrich your game, and you know what they're into, what they're looking for in the game. You will learn so much, and it'll improve your running so much. There's another question here.
Yeah.
Go, Jay.
And yeah, I was about to say that it also validates their worth on the table.
Oh yeah.
As players, you want to be valued, and having the GM acknowledge your expertise and basically, ask you for your opinion on things, that's definitely helpful, because it also helps you take part in like the game at large and not just what your player does.
Yep. I have wait, there's a question. Okay. Which is your favorite White Wolf game?
Mage, The Awakening. Definitely
Yes.
Mage.
I'm more of a VTM person at the moment. I don't know. I woke up with a strange desire to play Vampire the Masquerade recently. Here is another question from Jan. Jan or Yan, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Are there any shops that offer any tabletop RPG stuff in Novaliches? I don't think either of us are from Novaliches.
Yes, sadly, but I do know that Fortress Games delivers. They have a
Yes, they
website
do.
now, so they can deliver. So that's one of the things. You can also get stuff from NG Spiel. Depends. Neurogrants usually has D&D stuff and miniatures that you can use for D&D games.
And
Jay
if
and
you
Mage.
if you join any of the online groups, Jay's Underground Philippine Tabletop group, my Call of Cthulhu PH group, Dice and Davao, there are a ton of people there that are just so helpful. Put a question there. You'll have to dig through all the answers. I'm sure that'll help. Here from Julie. Any advice for players who are scared to voice out their concerns? This is important.
Yeah, definitely. This happens in cons actually more often than not, where you have that one shy player or one player who doesn't really speak up as much or gets overwhelmed by the louder players in the group. So sometimes what I do is, and maybe some people might think I'm a mean GM for doing this, is sometimes I split the party. For social games like Call of Cthulhu, investigative games, and games like, say, the Five Rings, and even Vampire, anything that basically relies on socials, have opportunities to isolate the player and give them the spotlight. It doesn't have to be something that's extremely important or vital yet. Like, for example, if you have an idea that, okay, this player is uncertain, they're still getting the ropes, then it can be something as simple as, oh, you talk to the barkeep. And, just basic interaction, back and forth, get them to used to talking to the barkeep or speaking in character. Start off with that. And then later, if it comes to Like if it's someone that's just quiet and gets overwhelmed by other people, but they don't really mind, then you can send them like, okay, you speak to this NPC that has important information they'd rather not tell other people, but your character. So you give them something important for the investigation. You give them something that they can, and it's up to them because now they have control of that information. It's up to them how they share it to the rest of the party, and that I guess imbues them with value to the game in general. So now all of a sudden, like, oh, that's the person who has that vital clue, and the rest of the party now has to listen to them, or at least give them the time of day or the attention that they need.
I get that's great. Okay, for me, my suggestion is actually off table, which we can totally take advantage of now that we're all running games online. Send the player a private message. That is
Mhm.
that is my favorite thing running online right now. I can quickly send the player a message and say, "Hey, are you all right? Is something happening?" I don't have to make it awkward for the player by like stopping a physical game and saying, "Wait, okay, this is weird. Are you all right?" I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to wait for the end of the session anymore. I can shoot the player a private message and ask them if everything's all right and if there's something they want to do. And I find that more often than not, they tell me, "Oh, I kind of want to do this, but I don't want to tell anybody." So I get to make a way to make an exciting plot twist for players on the table and and address their concerns as well. Yes. You know what? I'm here seeing a lot of split the party on the chat, and I am a big believer in splitting the party, even in Dungeons and Dragons. I just don't believe in players being joined at the hip.
Yes, yeah. That's it. Sometimes it gets funny sometimes, especially in like World of Darkness. It's like you have five vampires all waddling to the same place back and forth. They're like, guys, you can make use of the nighttime hours better if you split up.
I feel like it gets funnier for me, at least in modern games
Hmm.
where you play humans like Delta Green. You're playing an agent. Why are you all booking the same room? There's got to be some rules against this, like for your job. Why are six of you crammed in a room? You know, it's a blood party. Okay, yeah. So I think I got a bit sidetracked. Where were we?
We were dealing with players. To be fair, it's still part of it. We were talking about players who weren't as what do you call this, as ready to voice their actions in the game. So yeah, I guess it's cheaper to get just one room. Yes,
It is
Arch.
cheaper to get one room. That is true. That is the only excuse I will accept for booking one room for six people. Wait. Okay, Jay. Um, this is a hot topic on Twitter specifically. Are you team super prep dungeon master, game master, or team let me wing everything?
Okay. I'm on Team Wing Everything. I think it's more because I'm used to playing political games and games with lots of moving parts that preparing for it gets too too big. So it's easier to basically just understand what the motivations of everyone and then just wing it from there. Um, it's not for everyone. Oops, there we go. It's not for everyone. But us, having some measure of prep still matters. I don't believe in the whole, oh, I don't need to read anything about, I just need to know the basics of the rules and I'll be good. So I familiarize myself with the lore first. And then after that, running the game itself, I really want it to be, I guess for me, my philosophy for it is that the players are the ones.
That. Oh my god, I don't know. And I freeze when that happens. I've been running Call years. I still freeze when that happens, so I tend to over prepare. But I do as I say, not as I do. Middle
Dark ages, and as far as the time period is concerned, and
set in the 90s, so you can easily use. And I think that's brilliant because personally, master sin is that when I prep, I want the players to go in this.
I know this.
You know what? Don't fall in love with your baby. Kill your baby. Okay.
Mhm.
How do you prep those clues? Or
You guys are in the middle of like a big pairing clues. Yes. Prep the what. So in this case, the clues are part of that. But I think it's a little unfair to build an investigative game, even if the players somehow stumble into it, which has happened to me before. Let them have it. It's a win is a win. And I think that's the one thing that, like you said, kill your babies, intruder, the dog bit him. They drove past and said, "Oh no, we'll bring him to the hospital," and they grabbed him. And then that was. I think there was another question here from Arj. I think is it easier for you to prep for online or face to face? You take this one first, Lance.
I don't know about like props. I'm an artist. I like drawing my props. I like baking my props. Anything. So I miss prepping for. And in real life face-to-face games, you can act, you can use your movement, you can point out things in your house to while you can do it online, I find that it always breaks immersion when you have to furiously tap his face just to show this NPC person. Face-to-face is king, of course. What about EJ? I'm skipping. All right. I think Jay is trying to okay. While he's doing that, I'm gonna check out the comments. As enable or as enable, I tried prepping too much on my earlier years of GMing, then winging it on the later date. I feel like you gotta know the rules first before you start winging it, because it's like when you know the rules, you know perfectly where to break it so that it makes sense, and it's cool for your players to see, oh, I didn't know that was a thing that one could do. But apparently it is something. So it's a special treat for the players when you know where to wing it, the specific parts. Right, we're still waiting for Jay to get back on. In the us hit your questions about your questions, your concerns. We're all friends here. Tell us your deepest, darkest fears about running, and we'll tell you theirs, so you don't have to go through it alone.
Hello.
Hey! Oh, okay. Hi. I don't see a face.
Jay's
Is
back.
that you, God?
It is.
Oh my
Wait.
gosh.
Jay is red. Wait, hold on.
Okay, no worries about that.
Christmas lights. Let's go.
Can't. Oh my gosh, what's the headdress? The headdress is is something I picked up online because I wanted to do one of the. Okay, so I'm actually playing Descent to Avernus right now, and it's my first Mar from D&D. Sure, you know how we have tieflings, and then we have the counterpart, Asimars, angels. When my hey Lance, you want to join us in Avernus? I was actually more focused on Call of Cthulhu, and it wasn't really sure about what Avernus was. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll bring this super angelic being, good and kind and whatnot. And then I found out that we were going to hell. So it's been fun trying to remain an angel in hell. And I got this headdress for as a reminder of that game. Oh, hey, Toby. Welcome. I would just like to thank everybody who's joining us in this stream. We were so excited to do it just because we, as game masters who have been running games for a long time, we want to let people know that we still have our own fears, but we can get through it if you just jump in with both feet. And your game masters, us, are here for you. Like Jay is here. Is he?
No, yes, I'm so sorry.
Okay, no
Connection
worries.
issues.
Yeah.
Apologies.
I was just telling them about how I think I speak for the both of us as game masters, that we're happy to tell other people about our fears so that we can encourage them to run games on their own as well, because we feel the same fears you fear, no matter how long we've been running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
even ever since, even if I've been running since 1997, you still get the same butterflies before you run a game.
we've got Tristan Narbro. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My contact lenses are making it hard for me to read. So he says, which settings in RPGs do you find hardest to prepare for? Jay, because you just got back.
Yes. Okay. Fine. I'll take that. Okay. The setting that I find hardest to prepare for in RPGs would probably be the lore heavy ones. I pride myself in being able to run like Legend of the Five Rings, and other games. But honestly, if you get hit by something like, say, I don't know, D Genesis or Rune Quest, it's easy to get overwhelmed. So on my end, it's really chewing through all of the lore until I find that one thing that inspires me, and then I'll build the game around that. So that's my way around most games like that. The other thing probably would be a genre convention. I have difficulty running um, standard fantasy. I was actually built. I started my RPG career with Star Frontiers when I was 13. So it came in a cute little box set with tiny plastic dice that you had to fill in the numbers with crayons, and it was all sci-fi, modern day espionage, uh, and horror settings. So when finally it came to D&D, I was a fish out of water for that one.
For me, it's a secret, but I guess I'll tell people now. I'm actually looking into running Pendragon. And it is so hard for me not to turn it into a vanilla medieval knights and swords thing, because I want to give the system and the lore the respect it deserves. I want to stay true to its Arthurian roots and really bring out what makes it special in its own right. So I've never really read Arthurian legends, and I want to understand the culture behind these legends, why the stories are told in this way. So it's taking forever for me to run it. So that's what's making it difficult. Paolo, once again, has a very lovely tip for everybody, especially those who run investigative games. The Alexandrians, the three rule crew. Oh my gosh, what are words?
Three
Yay,
clue.
you do this. Oh.
The Alexandrian's three clue rule. But I think you know that better. I'm not entirely sure as to what that is. I will probably have to look it up. So
I think it, actually, you know what? I don't want to mistake it, so I'm going to look it up as well.
Toby Abad says Pendragon is so lovely. I completely believe you. The nature of the game and how it plays with the passions of the characters, I think it's like central to it. And while I've never run it, I have yet to hear anybody say anything bad about it, which is amazing in itself.
I just found the Alexandrians 3-clue rule. There we go. It's so hard for me to pronounce, and I think we're gonna bring it up on the screen right now so everybody can check it out. I believe it is a way to help players not to be stopped by bad rolls. You know how when you enter a room, you roll a perception check or a spot hidden, and suddenly nobody is able to hit that mark. And now everybody's stumped. The game master, of course, kind of doesn't want to give it because now you know that there's something there, but y'all failed. So the 3-clue rule. Sorry, it's such a tongue twister for me for some reason. Rule. You all, anybody who runs, check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it reminds me of something that I read way back in RPG.net. In the consecutive games tend to come to a crashing halt because the players can't find that one clue that the GM insists is important where you can proceed. So I think the term they came up for it was pixel bitching, because of the way that old video games would be like you click on everything in the screen hoping to find the in the old mystery games. So yeah, so I think that was what actually prompted the creation of the gumshoe system. So if you're familiar with Trails of Cthulhu, I think.
Yeah,
Anyway, Trails of Cthulhu. Yes. So Robin Laws. Sorry, I am so bad with names these days. Robin Laws and Trail of Cthulhu uses the gumshoe system. Okay. Julian says, what tips could you give in turning any TRPG into a horror game?
I'll go, because it's not something I actively do, but now I accidentally do it all the time. I just see myself doing it because I run so much Call of Cthulhu.
You show up with that costume in any game to run the game.
Well, aside from that, slow things down. Like, instead of saying, okay, you go into this room, you find this and that, when I run a game, I let them look around the area and whatnot, and then even if there's nothing behind the room, I would slow down and say, oh, wait, okay, so who's touching the door? I need to know who's touching the door. It's a bit of a trickery sort of thing, but it makes them pause and worry about it. And then I would slow it down in the same way movies slow suspense things down. You open the door. Once you open the door, you don't immediately see anything because, of course, the lights are dim. Or even if you have dark vision in D&D, it takes a while for your eyes to adjust. Usually, slowing things down gives the players a pause, and that gives them a feeling of fear. I've done it in Dungeons and Dragons accidentally. I've done it in the Legend of the Fire Rings accidentally. It's my favorite go-to trick. What about you, Jay?
Let's see. Turning any TRPG into a horror game. I think it's for me. It would be, I guess, focusing on motivations. So I guess the whole horror aspect for me is like, what would motivate someone to do something despicable? So you delve into that. Sometimes if it's an investigation that you can do in D&D or in any other game, it's you take out the effect that the genre has. So it could be a blasters, it could be in a spaceship, it could be, in like the Dark Ages. But the point is, something despicable happened to someone, and someone was actually pushed to the point of doing something horrible. And then you slowly unravel by having the players go through the investigation. You slowly reveal bits and pieces of what could have caused someone to reach that point, because when we talk about murder psychology, right? Yeah, if the
No,
body
Jay,
shows
tell us
signs
about
of like
murder
you know,
psychology. Tell us about
no, it's more
murder
like
psychology, Jay. I
I,
know nothing
okay.
about this.
I guess if we're talking about horror, I guess the one thing that you want to take a look at is that if someone just kills somebody and just do anything worse to the body, mutilation is usually done if the perpetrator actually personally knows or is emotionally involved in the person. Otherwise, a murder is just that. The person is dead, okay, let's bury the body. But if it's let's just, pour acid on this person's face before we bury him and whatnot, uh, then it elevates. There's a change in motive. It's a crime of passion. It's a crime of something. So that's one of the things that you can look for. Criminal psychology is a wonderful, wonderful topic. So if you want to turn any TRPG into a horror game, look into the motivations of the perpetrator.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Another advice in that vein is take your favorite subjects in true crime and just find bits and pieces of that and put it in your game. I picked up this book. I don't research on
these are
destructive.
destructive cults.
Yeah, it's a fun read.
Suddenly tempted to ask you to do a tour one of these days of places like
You want
your
a tour of my
strange
book
books.
collection?
Yeah.
But yeah, take bits and pieces of what you find horrifying, and you are not alone. Throw it in there. Oh, favorite character motivation mechanics. You go, Jay.
Okay. Favorite character motivation mechanics. Okay. For character motivation mechanics, Legend of the Five Rings, Fifth Edition, does this really, really well. For character motivation, there are actual four. There are actually four social stats in L5R. You have a ninja giri, which are essentially the characters. Um, what's the best way to describe it? Ninja is like your duty. Which one is which? But basically, one is your duty and one is your personal want. So this is what your society wants you to do, and this is what you want to do for yourself. And then there's honor and then glory, which is your personal adherence to the social mores of honor in the setting, and glory, which is um, how you are celebrated publicly or perceived publicly. So all of those play a delightful calculus in terms of figuring what a character should be doing at any given point in time. Because your character is saying, "Yo, I'm playing an honorable samurai who is like utterly devoted to his lord," who suddenly discovers that his lord is up to some shady business that deserves um, would otherwise be uh, the kind of thing that would be met with the death penalty. And then all of a sudden you have a character who's conflicted because my duty demands that I serve my lord, but my honor demands that I take action against him. So it's that kind of interplay where you have multiple um, considerations and things in conflict or in sometimes and hopefully in agreement with each other that lends to a more introverted, so to speak, game in L5R. And once you get the hang of it, um, it's great to see how your players um, learn to embody the good and bad parts of this sort of system in what do you call this? In their characters. Like for example, Lanz has seen firsthand like the crazy kinds of situations that you have to like wrangle in an L5R game.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so my particular favorite character motivation mechanic comes from Delta Green. It's called the bonds mechanic. So in regular Call of Cthulhu, you see something crazy, you read a book, you go crazy. In Delta Green, though, when you see something horrifying, you have a chance to stave off the madness by holding on to people that you are fighting for. These are your bonds. So let's say I know that if I don't shoot this monster, um, it's going to come back for me. So I stave off the madness. I don't freak out, and I just shoot it. But as I try to remember that bond that helps me stave off the madness, because I'm using it so much, um, it chips away at my bond. Let's say I shot this monster, and now my character has gone back to drinking, and that frays my relationship with my daughter or my husband because I promised them I wouldn't do it anymore. It gives that sense of I'm doing this for you. i'm I fought
That's
off the
amazing.
madness for you. But
Love it.
i'm I'm trying to keep my sanity intact, and it's such a heart wrenching mechanic that lets you twist the knife as a GM a little more, and it's beautiful because cosmic horror. It is inevitable. You're just staving it off one more day for those that you love. Um, any favorite horror genre, Jay?
Favorite horror genre? Mine would be. Uh, I don't exactly know the name for it, but my preferred horror is the one that makes you question reality.
Ooh.
So you question your not just your sanity, but it's that side slip moment when you feel that your reality has just been yanked from underneath you, and you're suddenly everything is in question, and it's a very Twilight Zone kind of horror, where knowledge is your worst um, companion, because when you finally realize that something is terribly wrong, you're usually in too deep.
I was in a conference with Kenneth Haidt one time, and he puts it so nicely. I was asking him, how do I deal with players who are really good in finding out things, and he said they told me, let them find out things, let them have the knowledge that will core their brain so much because they know it's happening, but there's nothing they can do about it. My particular favorite in horror genre is either really campy or I like the slow descent into madness. The Shining, for example. I love that one.
Okay. Yeah, The Shining. Classic. Haven't tried L5R. It's definitely worth trying. Not really a horror game, but it can get horrible. I've run
Go down
what do you call
south to
this,
the crab,
ghost story
and
with it.
now it's a horror game.
Now it's a horror. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, since we're talking about genres, and eventually we really have to like consider the effect it has on the rest of the play. So I guess we can move on to table management. So I guess that's the other concern that we have. It's not just all about us, but it's also about how do you handle a group of like three or four or five other people with different wants and expectations for the game. And honestly, sometimes that's actually the scariest part of GMing, since like what we mentioned earlier, we said we're putting ourselves out there in front of people. Sometimes strangers, sometimes friends, but definitely everybody expectations, and you're carrying that particular burden on your shoulders. So how do you go about either preparing yourself or making it making it easier for yourself to handle a group?
Um, I do the easy way out. I give pegs. Let's say, hey guys, I want to run you this particular module. If you've seen this movie, this is the feel that we're going for. This is what we're looking at, and usually that helps them get characters who are fit for that world. But of course, you can't stop the usual straggler from another world. You have your antiquarian, you have your librarian, you have your I don't know, geologist, and then suddenly you have a jazz singer, which is not bad at all. But what do you call this? It usually helps get the players into the mindset that, oh, this is the type of game that's going on. I want to bounce off the world. If they want to bring in something else, I talk to them personally and try to work out a way to help them help their character blend into the world. And of course, for table management, I give out the consent form just so I know what to avoid right off the bat, which is hard in horror games. Like there was this one game where the player told me not to include the thing that was the main horror of the game. I was like, interesting. Cool. It worked out well. I'm not going to spoil it here because I might run it for some people here, but I think it's very important, especially in horror, to set the table right because horror pulls out emotions that horror pulls out emotions that are terrifying. Duh. we want to we want them to be
No, we
terrifying
understand
in
what
a
you're
good
trying to
way.
say. Yeah, there
We
we
want,
go. Paulo
yeah.
Jose Cruz. Yeah, Paulo Jose Cruz has like some excellent advice here. You should be running this panel with us. Yeah, the 30-minute session zero is a must, even for a time convention game with multiple strangers. Get a clear idea of individual expectations, preferences regarding tones, themes, etc., etc. Yeah, honestly, coming from wow, I get to say this. Coming from my generation of gaming, I'm
Oh
actually
no.
glad for this wave of awareness. Because back then, I mean, even early 90s, White Wolf, uh, the World of Darkness games were a bit of a hit and miss. Some could be fantastic, others could be downright traumatizing. So it's great now that it's a thing to actually uh, be more aware about why people are on the game, get people together and decide that, this is what we find fun. This is how we're ready to engage in horror, for example, or any other genre. And of course, defining what your limits are for a game and what elements you can and can't take. And honestly, it's all part of it. It's a give and take thing. Um, as a GM, you have to be aware of the fact that your players are they're giving you their time, and in a way, that's your biggest responsibility as a GM is to manage that time fairly. Find a way to give them a great time, and yeah, yes, yes. Paolo was here last week. Go check out the VOD. Uh, Plenty of great information there as well. Uh, yeah, I guess it would have been easier for
Well,
you to show up. Anyway, good.
right. With that, after talking about all our fears, maybe we could run through a few of the our fallback plans when what we do, our best practices, our best tools to get past our fears of our different fears in running games.
Okay. Right. So I guess how to get started with GMing is, I guess, the same thing with any new endeavor. Prepare yourself ahead and start with reasonable expectations. In this case, I would highly advise going and checking out one of the many quick start or beginner sets that are out there. Dungeons and Dragons has a starter kit and an essentials kit. Call of Cthulhu has a big box. Um, Cubicle Seven's Warhammer Fantasy, Age of Sigmar, and Warhammer 40K all have starter kits. You, it's actually a great time to be a new GM because so many companies are starting to come out with fantastic box sets right now. And it's full of all the kind of support that you need as a new GM. Some of them have fantastic maps. Some have multiple adventures baked into them. Others have tools that you can use to manage the table, whether or not it's like fixing, what do you call this? How to manage combat initiative, for example, an initiative tracker in the upcoming RuneQuest starter kit that I am currently saving up for. So prepare yourself with the starter kits, and you don't have to buy the physical boxes. They're also largely available on PDF. Drive Through RPG usually has these, and we will be more than happy to share some of these links, probably as a follow up here. And yeah, in spite of your fears, just give it a shot. Start small, gather your friends, get a starter adventure. You don't have to go all in and like super commit to like, oh, I will read this gigantic tome of backstory. No, just go with this. Go with a small and easy run. Um, and if you want something that's super prepared, the Call of Cthulhu's The Haunting is still by far one of my favorite starter adventures because it's got a little of everything. Lance?
Oh, okay. So there are a ton of resources you can find online to help you get started. One is sessions like these. You should. This is the time where I put in all the plugs. So sessions like these, you can find instructions from GMs who will help you by following communities like Dungeons and Davao, who's kindly hosted Jay and myself. Locally, you can actually also get TRPG specific tomes from Hey Meepling. I actually get mine customized from them. They're very nice. Send them
Oh yeah,
a
definitely.
PM. Tell them what you need. Dice, oh my gosh. We've got Daisuki right in the comments right here. You can easily find them online. You can find the consent form online as well. Of course, starter kits are good. Join communities. You can join the t- sorry, Jay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Underground Philippine Tabletop? Is that the correct
Philippine Tabletop
title?
Underground, but you know, it's yeah. Anyway,
Sorry
yes.
about that. Philippine Tabletop Underground is Jay's group. You can connect with him there and on Twitter at Phil Gamer. Phil Gamer. Phil with as PH. And you can reach
Yes.
out to GMs. We're mostly online. And if we're not, we'll try to get to you. You can join the Call of Cthulhu PH group as well, where you'll find people who are willing to help you get a head start and get you resources. And local gaming shops, gaming library, Fortress Games. I wish I had a list of these things that I could have put up. I forgot. um, what else? Oh wait, let's do a couple of questions before we go. Horror movie genres. You take from your games. From your games. That's a good way to get started as well. Any horror movies you like, Jay?
Horror movies. Take from a game. I don't normally watch a lot of horror movies because I spook easily, actually, from movies. Um, but What was that one? Oh no, the title escapes me. There's this sci-fi one about a ship that goes through a black hole.
Event Horizon?
Event Horizon. There we go. There we go.
Event
That one.
Horizon was really good. I love
That
that
was really
one.
good. It's my favorite haunted ship movie. You know, because technically you could just transplant that to a pirate ship and it will still work.
Yeah, exactly. I think you used that in our Age of Sigmar game.
A little bit, yes.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that came through.
Okay, so I have a lot of horror movie recommendations, so I'm not gonna list up all of them. What I'm gonna tell you is pick a genre that you want. Well, a lot. When I started in horror gaming, I thought horror was just one thing, but no, it's not. There's a lot of different genres in horror. Fear Street is very campy, very R.L. Stein and Goosebumps. If that's what your players are looking for, check out Fear Street. If you're looking for a good vampire reference, I love Salem's Lot. Um, go to the classics, Stephen King, maybe even Neil Gaiman. There's a lot of those elements that you can add onto your game. Wait, let me check for other questions. My mouse is not scrolling, Jake. Do you see any questions?
Okay, hold on. Let me check if there's anything else. There's some good insight from people. Questions. Hold on. Let me scroll past a couple. No, I think we're good with the questions, but there's some interesting comments. Yeah, Event Horizon and Sunshine would work for Mothership. I think Mothership is on Kickstarter right now. Did I get that right? But it's definitely worth checking out. There's Heroic Studios. Shout out. What else? Tristan said something about the steps through solo play, one-on-one to group sessions is brilliant, and I see this showing up as well in games like Call of Cthulhu and RuneQuest. In fact, the RuneQuest starter box actually has a solo adventure you can play through first, just so you understand the rules. Then gives you, I think, like 5 adventures to run for your group. So.
Oh wait, I have a plug. Jay is running Cthulhu Cthulhu this.
Oh yeah.
31st, right? And
on
we
the
still have
31st,
seats.
that's right. I think we have like 2 seats left. Yeah, if anybody wants to watch me attempt to not make a German accent. So
I want to see the German accent.
I have to look up some of these terms that they're using for the game. But yeah, I'll be running Cthulhu Cthulhu for the event for yeah, and we can link to that as well.
Yeah.
I think that's
Help me conquer my fear. I am going to be running my first stream ever as the Dungeon Master on Wednesday. Oh my gosh, 2 days
there we
from
go.
now with Gaming Library.
Support.
I am terrified. Y'all can be there and support me.
Nine. Are you gonna be wearing that costume when you run it?
No, I cannot see.
The Sclera. Legends of the Dark, Barovia, a Dungeons and Dragons one-shot game featuring. There we go. The lovely
Watch
GM
me
Lanz.
terrify a newbie. Watch me terrify a newbie because we have one player there who's gonna be like his first time, so knuckle cracks. 5 a.m. is so early. I think they're going to record it, so maybe you can rewatch it. Yeah. Oh, also, sorry. I have another stream wherein I'm gonna be a player with Heroic Studios Gaming, and that's going to be. Oh my gosh, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to. I hope I don't. You know what? Where's my planner?
Time zones.
Here. Ha. So it is going to be. Look at me pretending to read in the dark. It's going to be for me October the 30th at 1 a.m. So you can. If you're still up, you can come watch us. If not, I think there's a record of that game.
Spooky gaming at 1 a.m. let's
Science
see.
fiction
Oh,
horror
science
games.
fiction. Yeah, science fiction horror games. Um, I have. I was very fortunate to receive a copy of the Genesis from the wonderful people in Six More Vodka. It's more of a post-apocalyptic horror game, but it is magnificent. If you ever get a chance to check it out, um, I will have to see where it is. Thegenesis.com. They've recently released it for free. You can
Ooh,
actually get the books on pay what you want, and it is very, very cool. So,
free books, guys.
free books. Who will complain with free books? Mothership. There we
Unfortunately,
go. Post apocalyptic.
there. Unfortunately, I've never tried a science fiction horror game. Not that I can recall at the moment. So, if anyone's running, hey, I'm your girl.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm guilty of that. So much lore is one of the things I really like to sink my teeth into. If you guys ever get the chance to check out my blog as well at philgamer.wordpress.com, where yes, I didn't pay for any fancy URL, but yeah, I do very long form reviews of games. So breaking it down chapter by chapter. Yeah, I've been meaning to pick up on that again, but most recent ones would be like Call Cthulhu and Fallout 2D20 from Modifius.
Is
Um,
a Cthulhu considered sci-fi?
I guess it's alt history, kind of sci-fi if you consider the Noctwolf. And yes,
In that case,
Alien. Oh my
I
god,
have
Alien is
played.
fantastic.
Oh yeah, Alien. I've heard of it. I haven't played it. Yeah. Mm, Gordonak. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Look it up.
Maybe I shall hit you up. Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're looking right now at I believe this
Oh yeah,
is
this
the
is the Genesis. These guys are fantastic. Their artwork, their the setting is wonderfully bleak. If you like really bleak post-apocalyptic stuff with crazy tribes and such, definitely give this one a look.
Call of Cthulhu has a sci-fi setting and is expecting a setting book to ooh, I will never get out of Call of Cthulhu. It's like I want to run other
It's a
games, but
vocation.
then they come up with what is that campaign for the Wild West? Jay, forgot.
Mm, what was that again? Down Darker Trails.
Down Darker Trails. Then we've got Invictus Cthulhu, regular Cthulhu, Pulp Cthulhu. Good
Yeah, I
lord,
think the only one they haven't done yet is the Atomic Age Cthulhu. They did it back in like the early 90s, but I don't know what happened to that setting.
I have that book. I have that slim book. It has 5 adventures only. It's not exactly a full setting one, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think they got my soul. So, but I'm
Hello,
looking
hello.
forward. Oh, hello.
Hello,
Yes, God.
is this
Okay,
the voice?
this is the voice speaking. So, sorry for I was interjecting Lance in between her speech. Um, but yeah. So far we're just going through the plugs, and I just wanted to thank everybody that has been listening to the Fear of the Unknown since the start of its first episode. Really do appreciate you guys for tuning in, especially as we're going through our final episode. I really appreciate Jay and Lanz for making it through despite the technical difficulties and literal real world um, thunderstorms. We were able,
Ambience.
yes, the ambiance, the real world ambiance. I appreciate you guys bringing in the conversation. And thank you as well for people that have listened in. And I hope these discussions have helped you guys at least generally um, have intimate conversation, facing your fears in regards to our hobby. And if you guys would like to check them out, they're on their respective Twitters and all their streams. Please do support the speakers that have been a wonderful part of our series. Just wanted to give a heads up, like what Lan said. Uh, we're going through a 2 nights of horror event on October 30th and 31st. It's 5 days to go. It's a small community event, and we wanted to just give support to the local community and, of course, the TTRPGs that specialize in giving us a scare. Also, I also wanted to thank as well. Yes, you can definitely catch our VOD in both in YouTube and in Facebook as well. We'll definitely have it on the Fear of the Unknown playlist, and a few more plugins, I suppose. There's also Mothership. Yeah. So just a quick plugin, since there's a few streams happening soon. Um, the one more thing is there will be content. Just to give you guys a heads up, we did a World of Darkness workshop talking about Mage, the Ascension, Awakening, Changeling the Lost, and Dreaming, as well as Vampire the Masquerade V5. We will be uploading the audio clips that you guys can listen to for those who did not make it to the workshop. So definitely keep the conversation going. If you'd like, you can hop on into our Discord server. Our links are available on our Facebook page and also our Twitter, Dudes and Dice Davao. So thank you again to Lance and Jay for a wonderful conclusion to our series. I guess the last thing before we end, I would love to give you guys the floor for the final takeaways. With everything that we've discussed, with everything that we've covered, what's the few things you'd like to leave to the audience as we conclude?
Wow, it feels like a very heavy. Okay.
That's actually final thoughts, Charles.
Yeah, final thoughts. GMing isn't as scary as you might think. Sometimes it's really about controlling what you can. Start off with something simple. Start off with people that you trust. Start off with a well-supported adventure that will take the load off from avoiding uh, all the complications, and learn by doing. You just give it a shot, see what works, see what doesn't, and always ask your players for feedback, because you'll see that not only are you learning from it, but your players are actually on your side. The people that are playing with you chose to spend this time with you, and they want to see you succeed as well.
I don't know what to add to that. That's it, Jay. No, okay. So, in worse words, your players are more terrified of you than they are of them. Than you are of them. You are an empowered dungeon master, and you're all on the same side, as Jay said. You all want a good story out of this, so don't be afraid to talk to your players, work out a good story, because that's what we're all doing here in every single tabletop role-playing game we play. We bring stories to each other. You'll never know what it's like unless you try. Dive in. Just do it. Oh my gosh, Nike. Oh my plugs.
Thanks to everyone in the stream and for your comments. This would not have been as fun had it not been for your participation. We love the questions. We love the insight. My God, we learned so much today as well. So this was very, very great. Thank you again to everyone, especially to Grandmother who made this all possible.
Yep. You can catch us on Twitter, JPhilGamer, and me, Wasabi Buns. So yeah, that's it.
Right, and that concludes the Fear of the Unknown. Good night, everyone.
Bye,
and good
guys.
luck.
Bye.
Oh.